I shared an apartment with two beautiful women, a sweet, gentle Vicky and a stunning Belle. While I was pursuing Vicky Victoria, I had a revelation. I was a minor character, a nameless extra in a ridiculously cliché lesbian romance novel. The readers casually referred to me as Muscles, the plumber. The previous scene in the book had me pressed against the bathroom door, Victoria showering inside, my hand slowly turning the doorknob. "Oh God, oh my God," I muttered. "The pipe burst, I'll come in, brother." By the time I awoke to this reality, my hand had already wickedly opened the door. My spoken words echoed in my ears. Great, no saving me. I hated it. Why couldn't I have woken up a minute earlier? It wouldn't have been so damning. I shakily lifted my head. The bathroom was a mess. Victoria, wrapped in a towel, stared at me in shock, her dark eyes wide and vulnerable. The damp air around her, heavy with the scent of rose-scented shower gel, filled my nostrils and nearly stole my senses. Her face was flushed a delicate pink. "Sebastian," she whispered, protesting softly, "why did you come in now?" Before my awakening, this would have seemed like simple shyness. Now I knew my lower half had overridden my brain. Victoria wasn't rejecting me, she was just shy and bad at saying no. What I thought were unspoken understandings were in fact a source of discomfort for her, because she was a lesbian. Her true love was Isabella, an heiress forced into an arranged marriage. Isabella would be returning soon. She would see me with Victoria, disheveled, and unleash the full fury of 18 cans of pepper spray, tying me up and repeatedly spraying my eyes. Brutal. I'd end up in jail, singing the blues. I'd sue the author for emotional distress. My first attempt to get intimate with Victoria had been during this very incident. A burst pipe, a deliberate intrusion, a plan to seal the deal. Instead, I managed to land myself in jail. Step 1 to changing my fate, ditch the horny mindset. I retreated to a safe distance, forcing a casual laugh. "Go dry off before you catch a cold," I said. Victoria's lashes fluttered. After a few seconds, she mumbled, "What?" She had no idea how alluring she was. I swallowed hard, giving a mumbled response, wanting nothing more than to escape before Isabella arrived. I picked up a wrench and started to leave. Victoria said nothing, but took a couple of steps, probably to close the door behind me. The bathroom floor was slippery. She cried out, falling into my arms. I instinctively caught her, my arms around her waist. Victoria instinctively put her arms around my shoulders. Her soft lips brushed my ear, her breath warm on my neck. "Oh my God, someone save me!" I froze, my mind blank. Victoria steadied herself facing me, her hands still on my shoulder. "Thank you, Bastian," she said softly. She was pressed against me. I could see the tip of her pink tongue as she spoke. All I had to do was lean in. Then a voice cut through the air. "Bastian, I'm home. What are you two doing?" The image of myself in jail flashed through my mind. My hand moved faster than my brain. I pushed Victoria away, waving frantically at Isabella. "Let me explain." Isabella covered her ears. "I don't want to hear it. This is outrageous. Looks like the pepper spray is inevitable." "Fine." I casually wiped my hands on my overalls, covering my eyes in anticipation. But she didn't let up, grabbing my arm. "I'm speechless. This is excessive." I decided to just give up. I looked directly at the fury in Isabella's eyes. She grabbed my wrist, gritting her teeth. "Sebastian, you won't even give me an explanation? Are you insane?" "You said you didn't want to hear it," I said, dumbfounded. Isabella yelled, "Just because I said I didn't want to hear it doesn't mean you shouldn't explain. I told you not to wash Victoria's stockings. Did you listen?" I quickly covered her mouth. "Keep your voice down," I whispered, then added, "I won't do it again. Don't be angry." I sighed, resigned. Victoria said the pipe burst and asked me to help. A sob interrupted me. I turned around, my eyes widening. Victoria was leaning against the sink, clutching her leg, tears streaming down her face. Seeing me look, she whimpered, "Bastian, it hurts." My legs went weak. I must have pushed her. I must have. I shoved Isabella away and rushed to Victoria's side, guilt overwhelming me. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Victoria shook her head, her lips trembling slightly. She leaned against me, but her gaze was on Isabella. The pipe broke, she said. Bastian was just worried about me. Isabella, don't misunderstand. I was about to explain, but stopped, overcome with sadness. Victoria clearly cared deeply for Isabella and was afraid of causing a misunderstanding. I helped Victoria to Isabella's side, then gently pushed her towards. Here, I said, you two should head back to your room. I grabbed my toolbox and bolted out of the bathroom, not forgetting to close the door behind them. I heard Isabella's muffled voice arguing, but could only make out snatches of it. Victoria, if you dare. Isabella was definitely angry. Then came Victoria's typically gentle tone. I like you. I'm jealous. The two girls, mindful of their shared apartment, kept their voices down. I couldn't hear clearly, but it was thoughtful of them. Still, arguing like that wasn't ideal. Images of heartbreak flashed through my mind. I shivered and crept back to my room, burying my head under the covers, lost in thought. Things I'd previously ignored suddenly became crystal clear. No wonder Isabella always looked so resentful when I washed Victoria's stockings. Or when I sat next to Victoria while watching TV, Isabella always made me move away. Isabella liked Victoria. I'd thought they were just best friends. She thought I was pathetic, that I was pursuing her friend. Apparently, I was a giant, incredibly inconvenient light bulb. A huge stumbling block. Before today, I thought my life, despite some setbacks, was pretty decent. I'd been abandoned, sure, but the orphanage director was kind. My grades weren't stellar, but I was a skilled plumber. Right after graduation, I rented a small apartment and took on plumbing jobs in the surrounding neighborhood. I'd work when there was work and relax at home otherwise. I earned a decent living. Then I moved in with Victoria, my beautiful roommate. It was like a desert blooming. I'd even saved up to move to a bigger apartment but hadn't gotten around to it. Soon after, Isabella moved in. At first, I thought she was interfering with my budding relationship with Victoria. But after 6 months, the three of us got along surprisingly well. Victoria was an artist. She only left her room to buy art supplies. She kept the common areas spotless. I, on the other hand, limited my contributions to washing her stockings. Isabella, aspiring to be a photographer, spent all her money on film. Without bus fare, she rarely left the apartment, spending her time snapping photos, whatever those were. If I hadn't had this epiphany, I would never have known that Victoria would become world famous in 3 months' time, nor that Isabella was the heiress to the T&I group. Under the same roof, I was the only one who was unremarkable. Thinking about my previous behavior, I wanted to disappear. I'm just a plumber, I thought, forget it. But even if Victoria was a lesbian, I really liked her. Drowning in the sorrow of unrequited love, I experienced my first sleepless night. Usually I'd fall asleep by 9:30, but at 10 o'clock I was still staring blankly. So when Victoria walked into my room with a pillow, I nearly jumped out of my skin. "Seb, you're still awake?" she asked. Victoria stood there, glancing at my unlit incense burner, her tone peculiar. I switched on the light, bewildered. "How did you get in here?" I asked. Victoria smiled faintly, walking to my bed and sitting beside me demurely. Then, slowly, she started lifting her skirt. Whoa, was this free entertainment? Honestly, I didn't intend to look, but my eyes had a mind of their own. Her nightgown was a pale pink, very youthful. Victoria pointed to a small, barely visible red mark. "Sebastian," she whispered, "do you have any liniment? It's not serious. I think the redness will fade soon. I probably don't need anything, but..." I blurted out yes and got the liniment. I felt a pang of guilt. I'd pushed her. In a flash, Victoria was lying on my bed. She lifted her leg, shyly saying, "It hurts, brother. Be gentle." Victoria's looks and posture, coupled with those words, were too much. Before today, I would have jumped at the chance. But now I simply applied the liniment carefully. "Seb, gentler," she whispered. I felt an urge to sew her mouth shut. Luckily, my pajamas were loose, otherwise it would have been awkward. Once the liniment was absorbed, I quickly lowered her skirt. Okay, go back," I said. "I can't be tempted anymore. No more inappropriate thoughts about Victoria." I turned to put away the liniment, silently reciting math problems. From behind me, Victoria's voice, tinged with sadness, said, "Seb, you're cold tonight. Did I do something wrong?" My heart melted. As love surged, an impulse struck me. Screw the plot. What if I could change things? But then I turned and saw the broken skin on Victoria's lip. Damn it. Victoria and Isabella had been kissing in the bathroom. My impulse vanished. "No, you're overthinking it," I said. Victoria lowered her eyes, leaning closer. "Overthinking? But Seb, you pushed me so hard today. Before, you wouldn't even dare push me away." Ugh. The statement was a bit ambiguous, but Victoria had this soft, gentle personality. When we first started living together, she was quite reserved, almost overly accommodating, as if afraid I'd ignore her. In my vanity, I took her actions as admiration. She asked, "Seb, what are you thinking? Why aren't you answering me?" Victoria tugged at my shirt, smiling with pursed lips, her dimples sweet and soft. I wanted to say, "Because I'm worried about Isabella's chili pepper spray," but I stopped short of mentioning the chili spray. After all, it would be emasculating for a big guy like me to fear a little girl. Without waiting for Victoria to ask again, I rolled over in bed, turned my head, and pretended to be sleepy. "Go back to your room," I said. "I'm going to sleep." A few seconds later, I heard the sound of a match striking. I frowned and turned my head. Victoria said, "I forgot to light the mosquito coil. I'll light it for you, brother." Victoria's beautiful eyes were downcast. The warm yellow light made her look a little sinister, but the smell of the mosquito coil made me really sleepy, so I didn't pay her any more attention. In my hazy sleep, I seemed to hear Victoria speaking. She said, "Don't like others, don't leave my brother," her little mouth chattering away. I couldn't hear clearly. There was something wet and soft on my cheek, tickling me. I slapped her, peace restored. In the mirror, I saw a few scattered red dots on my neck and shoulders and wondered, mosquito bites? Didn't I light a mosquito coil? Whatever, I'm thick-skinned. When I came out after washing up, Victoria and Isabella were cooking in the kitchen. I stole a glance inside. Victoria was handing Isabella a knife. Both women had tall, curvaceous figures. It was a shame they weren't together. They were both stunning. But whatever, they were both leading ladies, top tier in every way. I, the cannon fodder, wouldn't interfere. I quietly left, grabbing my tools to fix a plumbing problem. For some reason, I had no outside work during this period. It was all plumbing issues in my apartment building. This crappy building. It was noon by the time I finished. Normally, I would have gone back to see Victoria, but now, I sighed, left my tools at the security office, and slowly left the apartment complex, wandering around. After 6 in the evening, I slowly headed back. "Seb, dinner's ready." As soon as I entered, Victoria untied her pink apron, and Isabella set the table, patting the seat beside her. "Sit here." Isabella was such a jealous woman. She just wanted me to stay away from Victoria, didn't she? Victoria frowned, pulling out the chair next to her. "Sit here. It's a little chilly over there by the air conditioner." But I didn't want to be a stumbling block in their love story. I loved Victoria, and I hoped she'd get what she wanted soon. The pain of unrequited love. I could handle it alone. "No, I've already eaten outside," I said, waving my hand. "I'm too tired. Don't bother me. I've been wandering around all day and haven't done anything productive. Pure exhaustion. Heartbreak really can knock a person down. Even though I wasn't heartbroken, I'd give myself some credit. I avoided them for a week. I couldn't bear to watch them flirt under my nose. In the second week, Isabella finally grabbed my ear roughly. "Bastian, you eat out every day. Don't you like the food at home? Or are you tired of the food Victoria and I make? I sat down obediently. Victoria pushed Isabella. Don't treat Seb like that. Isabella's face flushed. She looked like she was about to explode. I flinched. Isabella's anger was not something to be taken lightly. In the past, her anger always resulted in a slap to my face. To be honest, Isabella was a little unreasonable. Who benefited from my absence? But I dared not say it. I chuckled. It's fine, it doesn't hurt. I just grabbed a bite outside after fixing the pipes. I'll definitely come back tomorrow. Victoria leaned over and tugged at my sleeve. Tomorrow? It was an intimate gesture. I secretly glanced at Isabella. Her expression was even worse. What am I, a cog in their lesbian drama? The next second, Victoria said, Bastian, have you forgotten what day tomorrow is? What day? I frowned, puzzled. A few seconds later, someone pinched my arm hard. She was clinging to me, her tone gentle. Don't worry, take your time thinking. It hurts a little, but not too much. Maybe 40% pain? That didn't sound like she wasn't worried. Victoria's birthday? No. Isabella's birthday? No. Nor was it their anniversary. Isabella hadn't even confessed yet. Wait. A month ago, Victoria said she wanted to go on a sketching trip nearby, and Isabella wanted to shoot some outdoor scenes. We booked a quiet cabin in the suburbs. I arranged it, but I've been so down lately that I forgot about it. Not only did I book the cabin, but I also planned a romantic proposal for Victoria. I remember. I gritted my teeth. You guys eat. I'll go back to my room to pack. I fled, slamming the door shut, and started making calls. Just as I was about to call the cabin's manager, I saw a message from them. Mr. Bastian, the location was set. Excellent. I rolled my eyes, quickly typing. Plan changed. Confession canceled. Ring. Return it when I get back. The other side sent a question mark. I replied, I'll pay. They responded, okay. I'd been so consumed by the agony of a recent awakening that I'd completely forgotten my original plan to confess my love to Victoria. She had shown me a painting once, a spectacular field of roses. She'd said that if she ever met someone she liked, she hoped to receive a confession of love in such a setting. I'd spent a fortune booking the venue and roses. Now, the confession was off and my money was gone. My heart felt like ashes. I arrived at the cabin, my pain intensifying. The scenery was breathtaking, nestled beside the water. Such a beautiful place, such an expensive place. Sebastian, look, Isabella yelled. I instinctively turned, my lips meeting something soft. It was Victoria. My eyes widened. When had she gotten behind me? My heart pounded, a faint rose scent lingered on my lips, Victoria's perfume. Even knowing Victoria and Isabella's relationship, I couldn't control my feelings. Reason and desire warred within me. My hand slowly rose, but then a voice cut through the air. Sebastian, you dare put your arm around her. Isabella, storming over with her camera, cut me off. My burgeoning boldness vanished. I shoved Victoria away. Let me explain. It was an accident, a total accident. Isabella raised her hand to slap me, but Victoria blocked the blow. Victoria said innocently, it was an accident. Why are you so angry? Exactly. If I had done something genuinely wrong to Victoria in the original plan, a slap might have been deserved. But this was entirely unintentional. Isabella, however, became even angrier at the explanation. She glared at Victoria, biting her lip. Stay away from him, she hissed. Victoria frowned, following Isabella's retreating figure with a sigh. Isabella muttered angrily as they walked away, their words mostly unintelligible but clearly laced with curses. When they returned, Isabella had a slight cut on her lip. My hopes died. I angrily bit into an apple, ignoring them both. I had a temper, too. I didn't speak to them for the rest of the meal. Actually, I wasn't jealous at all. It's ridiculous. It was just a kiss. I'd kissed Victoria, too. The fleeting pleasure was enough to savor for a long time. I hadn't completely ruled out altering the narrative, but I loved Victoria too much. I wanted her to be with someone she loved, more than I wanted to manipulate the situation to get her. As I prepared to head to my room, Victoria suggested, "Bastian, shall we go for a walk to the back mountain? I hear the night view is beautiful." The back mountain was where I had originally planned to confess my love. I turned to Victoria, her face filled with anticipation. I swallowed my refusal. Apparently, I'd ruined their moment. Isabella glared at me, resentment blazing. A rebellious spark ignited within me. I decided to be their third wheel, but there were so many third wheels. I stared, dumbfounded, at the vast expanse of fiery red roses and the tiny lights spelling out "I love you," deep in doubt. I had canceled the confession, hadn't I? I checked my phone again to make sure. Yes, it was canceled. Who could explain why this meticulously planned confession scene was happening now? "It's so beautiful," Victoria said, her eyes shining, full of expectation. "Who's confessing?" A figure crept up, slipping a ring and flowers into my hand. Victoria gasped, her eyes curving into crescents. "Bastian, who are you confessing to?" I was speechless. This unreliable cabin was driving me mad. I trembled, looking at Isabella. Her face was crimson. I closed my eyes, my hand trembling as I held the ring. I was certain that if I confessed, Isabella would slap me. And Victoria. I opened my eyes, watching Victoria's happy expression, my heart sinking. In the original plan, my feelings for Victoria had driven us apart, leading to irreparable mistakes. Victoria's final look in the original story was one of disgust. I didn't want to see that look from the kind, gentle, lovely Victoria. I loved her so much that being her friend was the best outcome. So I said, "Isabella, I love you." Victoria smiled. "Bastian, I..." Her smile froze, her hand suspended mid-air. "Sebastian, who did you say you loved?" I took a deep breath, stepping past Victoria and standing before Isabella. "I love you." The air hung heavy with tension. This was the best way I could think of to escape this three-way entanglement. Isabella wasn't as gentle and kind as Victoria. She was forthright and decisive. She would undoubtedly reject me without hesitation, and might even confess to Victoria. After all, they were best friends who had never revealed their true feelings to each other. Only now did I fully understand the lingering resentment in my heart. If I had known their orientation, I would have withdrawn from the situation long ago. Isabella was stunned. I was happy. Before I withdrew from their lives, I decided to give Isabella a little payback. I shoved the flowers and ring into her hands. "I know you don't like me," I said, "but I wanted to tell you how I feel." As I turned to leave, Victoria's face went white. She stared intently at the ring and flowers. After I left, the back mountain was eerily silent. 2 seconds later, Victoria spun around and slapped Isabella across the face. "What did you do to him?" she screamed. "Why would he suddenly like you?" Isabella, clutching the ring, couldn't retaliate. She was equally bewildered, but the rare sight of Victoria's defeat made her laugh. "Victoria," she said, "if it weren't for your underhanded tactics, he would have been mine all along." I drove home that night, without so much as a greeting. I'd lived in that house for years, but my belongings weren't many. A single suitcase held all my clothes. I quickly moved out and rented a small apartment. Isabella was probably explaining things to Victoria. They would confess to me eventually. Rather than face the awkwardness of living under the same roof, I decided to leave. I left the apartment building's group chat and contacted the property management. I'm not skilled at much, just plumbing. The book cast me as Muscles, the plumber, a man whose life revolved around fixing pipes and nothing else. Victoria's hands brought life to the world. Mine were mere tools for survival. We weren't a match. I knew she wasn't my star, just a beam of starlight that had shone on me, and that was enough. I needed to make money. I didn't have time for despair. I carried my toolbox and continued my early-to-bed, early-to-rise life, expanding my work to the entire city. The busier I was, the less I'd think about Victoria. As the moon rose, I dragged my weary body through a back alley. A strange, sweet scent tickled my nose. My head swam, and before I lost consciousness, I saw a cold, beautiful face. I never thought Muscles, the plumber, would be imprisoned, let alone by Victoria. I rattled my chains, my mind struggling to process what was happening. Victoria, as beautiful as ever, stirred a spoonful of something, her gaze fanatical. "Brother," she said, "drink your medicine." "I'm not sick," I said, pointing at the chains. "You look like you're the one who needs medicine." Victoria had gone mad. She was jealous because I liked Isabella, so she wanted to kill me. The next second, the spoon was forced into my mouth. A bitter taste flooded my mouth, nose, chest, everywhere. But what struck me as odd wasn't the medicine, but Victoria's near-maniacal gleam. "You're sick," she said, a sick smile playing on her lips. "That's why you like Isabella. This medicine will cure you." I tried to resist, but my restraints made it impossible. Victoria continued to force the medicine down my throat. "Victoria, you're insane," I yelled. I threw my shoulder into her, shoving her away. What kind of ridiculous plot was this? First, it was Isabella who got me arrested because I liked Victoria. Now it's Victoria imprisoning me after I confessed to Isabella? Was I destined to be a cannon fodder? My head throbbed. I felt like my brain was growing. "What kind of poison did you give me?" I asked. "My head hurts. I feel sick." Victoria looked at me, then said softly, "A potion to make my brother love me." I was speechless. I glanced down at my pants. She lied. I wasn't aroused. I looked at Victoria's cold, beautiful eyes and said, "Whoever you are, get out of Victoria's body. Something's wrong, very wrong. This Victoria is completely different from the one I know. I've awoken. So either Victoria has awakened or someone has possessed her." I muttered, "Who are you? What do you want?" Victoria raised her hand, slowly undoing the buttons of her white silk blouse. Wait a minute," I said. "What are you doing? Just talk. What is the meaning of this?" The next second, she kissed me. "I am Victoria," she said, "and I want to cook with you." This was definitely not Victoria. I pushed her away, spitting out the words, "Get out, you homewrecker." The room fell silent. I could only hear the clinking of my chains. I couldn't even hear Victoria breathing. I tried to crawl away from her, but I couldn't. I looked back in terror to see Victoria holding the chains, staring at me with seductive eyes, but with a hint of malice in her gaze. Her voice was soft. "Homewrecker? So you think so too, Sebastian? You've really angered me." She leaned down, whispering in my ear, "Brother, don't run. You'll stay here until you love me. I'll never give in." I gritted my teeth. "Even if you seduce me, I won't." Before I could finish, the fake Victoria threw back the covers. She giggled. "You're so energetic, brother. Seems like you like this." I wanted to retort, but my body betrayed me. What followed is not suitable for young audiences. A few days later, I stared blankly at the ceiling. Sebastian was at his wit's end. "I can't take it anymore. My kidneys are killing me. I want to run, but Victoria keeps such a close eye on me. She barely leaves my side except to buy groceries. This can't continue." While Victoria was out shopping, Sebastian fiddled with the door lock. The chain was already undone, granting him access to the room, but the door was locked from the outside. The window was openable, but jumping from the third floor was out of the question. He sat on the bed, despondent, when a head popped into view outside the window. "Sebastian," a voice called out, "get dressed and come with me." Isabella appeared unexpectedly. Sebastian, cursing under his breath, scrambled into his clothes, clutching himself. "Isabella's reliable," he thought. "I don't know what's going on, but for the sake of my kidneys, I have to go with her. You won't believe this." He gritted his teeth as he got into the car. "Victoria's been possessed. You noticed something different about her too, right?" He slumped in the car seat, waiting for a response, but Isabella likely thought he was having a breakdown. After a moment, she spoke. "She gave you the drug, didn't she?" Sebastian nodded. "Unbelievable. She actually gave me that drug. I told you she's possessed." "Thank you for saving me," he added. A roar erupted from behind. Before he could react, a red supercar screeched to a halt, blocking Isabella's car. Victoria, her eyes icy, executed a perfect drift. The sudden stop sent Sebastian's head slamming against the headrest. A searing pain shot through his skull, accompanied by Isabella's amused voice. "Sebastian," she said, "I hope you'll still remember to thank me." A splitting headache, worse than any he'd ever experienced, overwhelmed him. Images flashed before his eyes like slides. It all came back to him. The awakening, muscles, the lace, all lies. His life wasn't a novel. It was real. Victoria wasn't a fictional heroine. She was his wife. They had met while he was fixing a plumbing issue. He was an orphan who'd gotten into college through financial aid, then completed an internship at a hospital. His low salary forced him into shared housing with Victoria and Isabella, with Isabella moving in first. He'd fallen madly for Victoria, and their relationship blossomed after he fixed a burst pipe in her bathroom, an incident he capitalized on. He had created a rose-filled proposal at a lodge, and she had said yes. After they moved in together, Isabella returned to her family home. Victoria's art career took off, becoming a champion, and Sebastian became a top cardiologist. He wasn't a plumber. He specialized in cardiovascular surgery. They both worked hard, but life wasn't always smooth. After a botched surgery, he was targeted by the victim's family, a criminal gang, who injected him with a powerful hallucinogen that made nightmares seem real. They told him that everyone injected with it would suffer and ultimately commit suicide. That's why he thought he was a plumber and that Victoria didn't love him. Aside from the hallucinations, his life hadn't changed drastically. He'd earned everything he had. His only fear was losing Victoria's love. It wasn't distrust, but the intensity of his love. The drug had also damaged his brain, causing permanent damage. There was no known cure. Shaking, Sebastian got out of the car, his legs weak as Victoria approached. He was doomed. He knew Isabella had feelings for him, but after he'd met Victoria, those feelings had faded. He'd known Isabella for years, and Victoria didn't object to them meeting, but she always shadowed him. She'd make a fuss over the smallest thing. He was far from blameless and accepted it. He craved love and affection, and Victoria had provided that. Now he needed less. "Victoria," he said, trying to calm her, "you need to calm down. You know my mind isn't right. You won't hold this against me, right?" Victoria stopped, then accelerated towards him. She pulled a ring from her pocket, the one he'd given Isabella. "Brother," she said, "you like Isabella, don't you?" Sebastian feigned composure, letting out a sardonic laugh. "Hilarious. Who would like that violent little sister? I'm sorry, Isabella, it's not Victoria's fault." Isabella seethed. "Sebastian, you bastard." Sebastian, seizing an opportunity, pointed at Isabella. "She's insulting you." Despite his struggle, he couldn't escape. He cursed Isabella while Victoria dragged him into her Ferrari. The hallucinogen had ruined him. If the criminals weren't already behind bars, he would have killed them. "Honey," he pleaded, "please don't be angry. I love you the most." I got home and obediently knelt on the washboard, but at least Victoria was mine. I told Victoria about the mix-up, the hallucination-induced confusion, and why I said I liked Isabella. I slipped the ring onto Victoria's finger, saying, "It's your size, believe me now." The hallucinogen, they said, plunges you into your worst nightmare. My nightmare is you not loving me, but even so, I still love you. Victoria couldn't be appeased, her gaze heavy as she said, "You love the fake me." After the wedding, I slowly realized Victoria wasn't the soft, harmless girl I initially knew. She'd been acting, all to seduce me. Initially, she feared revealing her true, Rhea-like self, worried I'd run. It's admirable that she continued the act even after my memory lapse. But no matter what Victoria was like, falling for her was inevitable. I immediately denied her words. "Victoria," I said, "no matter what you're like, what your personality or type is, I love you. Otherwise, why wouldn't I have broken up with you? Victoria slowly said, "You're afraid I'll go crazy and imprison you." Okay, I was afraid of that, but it definitely wasn't the main reason. I pulled Victoria into my arms. "I'm a doctor. If I wanted to, I have 100 ways to leave you." But I didn't. Why is that? Victoria looked at me, and I waited quietly for her to speak. After a long pause, she mumbled awkwardly, "Because you love me." I rewarded her with a kiss. "Right, I love you," I said. Victoria was happy, but not overly so. She leaned in, produced a chain, and said, "Sweet talk's over. Let's settle the score. Brother's side story. My name is Isabella, heiress of the Yu family, the princess of the social elite. But even with my accomplishments, I couldn't get the man I loved. Getting older, I reluctantly started attending blind dates. On my way to one, Victoria, that scheming woman, called, saying Sebastian was in trouble. He'd been given a hallucinogen causing memory loss, trapping him in our shared apartment days. The doctor suggested recreating the past to help. Years later, I was back in the apartment where I'd first fallen for Sebastian. But this time, he wasn't a hospital worker. He was fixing pipes with a toolbox. Victoria and I were silent. The doctor said hallucinogens trap victims in their worst nightmare. Sebastian's nightmare, his job prospects gone, Victoria not loving him, and being slapped by me. Seriously, a quiet girl pursuing photography. When have I ever slapped someone? Even if I wanted to slap someone, it would be Victoria, that scheming woman. I was the one who liked Sebastian first, but that Rhea, always playing innocent, a pure Tory. Before I knew it, Victoria became Sebastian's wife. Defeated and humiliated, I moved out of our 3-person apartment. Victoria was back to her old tricks, seducing Sebastian right under my nose, and that dimwit Sebastian fell for it. I was forced to witness their reunion, but I no longer liked Sebastian. No big deal. I thought it was just going through the motions, but Sebastian suddenly said he liked me. My turn to gloat. The antidote, developed by U-Corp, was in my bag, but I wouldn't use it. While I didn't like Sebastian anymore, I still hated Victoria's queen bee status, her mistress mentality, and her manipulative tactics. I knew exactly how to provoke her, but I didn't expect her to lock Sebastian up to prevent him from getting close to me, that scheming woman. I rescued Sebastian, doing everything to annoy them both. I may not be the girl he loves, but I'll be his toxic friend. So happy. Sebastian thanked me for saving him. Actually, I was trying to hurt him. He recovered his memory and cursed me out. So what? It wasn't me getting messed with by that Rhea. Time for another blind date.